Good afternoon. We're almost finished. Traditionally, we do have one final speaker, closing keynote by who else but Grahame Grieve, who's already here. And Grahame Grieve, Grahame, as we all know him, you all know him, needs no introduction. He brought FHIR where it is now, and I know, Grahame, you're always modest, you always emphasize that it's not a personal thing, it's a community thing. It's driven by the community, and that's true. However, you need to build a community, and you have done your thing to build this community. So a big round of applause for Grahame for building this community. And one more thing before I hand the mic to you, Grahame. We also got a personal message from Alan Joyce. Anyone knows who Alan Joyce is? Oh, you knew. You know who he is. He is the CEO of Qantas, the Australian airline, and he wants to thank you personally for spreading the word across the globe. On behalf, well, just a joke, of course. Grahame, it's up to you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So you do know you're traveling too much when you get on the plane, and before they've looked at your boarding pass, they say, haven't seen you for a few weeks. And I'm up there now. So first of all, welcome. Oh, actually, that was 2-3 days ago. But welcome is how I felt this week and how a lot of people have told me they felt. A lot of people have come up and said, I really like this community. It's really welcoming. I feel at home here. Thank you to all of you here, because it's all of us who make this community. And that's, as Rian said, and I hammer away on this, it's critical. What's changing the world is not the technology. It's the passion of the community. And it's always my pleasure to be here in Amsterdam. Amsterdam, yay. And to gather here with the portion of the community that gathers here. It's really interesting. It's a different community, different kind of community. And thank you very much to FHIR for hosting. And we'll come back to FHIR again later. So at the start of the meeting, Rian said that the country that had the most attendees at this DevDays meeting was Germany. And then the second country was Netherlands. The third country, and I'm all primed, he's going to say Australia. No. There's 4 of us here. But no, it's not going to be us. USA, welcome to DevDays. All right. So, of course, as has been very obvious in this meeting, we ran the patient track. And for us, this is a big part of what we're about. And I want to talk a little bit about what we learned out of running the patient track. But before I do that, I should first of all announce the winner of the patient track. Before I do that, this was tough. This was hard. And I will announce who won, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we learned out of the patient track. So we were looking for people who use data and access to data to make a difference as a patient, and we're looking for generalizing that into a community and helping other people. And we loved, I'll start with John Keys, if you'd come up here, please. Do we have the... Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Is he the winner? Yes, John is the winner. Sorry about that. There you go, John. Okay, thanks. It's a real pleasure to recognise your work. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
You can tell that I'm really good at this, can't you? All right. But this is what the judges wanted to say. We loved what John has done for blood numbers. It exemplifies our criteria, a direct impact on a patient's health or treatment, designed to be useful, empowerment of the patient to take control of their own health, relevance for other patients because it's an app that will be turned into being a service for other patients. And we did like the app, even though it was, we're app people, but it wasn't the only criteria. And proven usage in daily life. And so that empowerment done by yourself as a patient, great work, John, thank you. And that illustrates our belief in the FHIR community that when patients have control of their data, health can improve. But that was a hard call. We debated this long and hard through the days because for me, all of the people that we invited here demonstrated really great work. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that for us. We recognised Ken Martin. We didn't invite Ken here, but we wanted to recognise Ken. He's a patient wellness advocate. This is really hard. When I read his submission, I'm like, this is really hard to believe. Just a patient, not a health IT professional, who asks Loink to create relevant codes for patient health tracking. And I'm like, that's really unbelievable that someone would think that way. There's a theme that I'm going to pick up on here about thinking infrastructurally. Because John's experience shows that even when you have a clear diagnosis and a clear treatment plan, having data available to optimize your experience and your ongoing management of your conditions is still a significant contribution to the overall journey of a patient. We also heard from Brenda, and Brenda needed a diagnosis. And that's another reason why we need data, and I'll come back to that in a second. And Brenda needed a diagnosis, so she started collecting data and thinking structurally about what was going on. And honestly, listening to Brenda, I thought to myself, you have to question our clinical culture. And then it's like, which clinical culture? Here we are from 32 different countries, and yet when I travel the healthcare system and walk around the world, run around the world, which I seem to do more and more these days, there's very different approaches to how much money people spend and to who gets to spend the money and to how access is provided and where the profit is extracted from the system. But at the heart of every system, somebody is paid to provide care to somebody who is sick or who needs care of some kind or other. And you can strip away all the other parts that I talked about, and at that kernel of the care system, that's where the problem is. And that was the problem that our patient advocates, our patient innovators were dealing with. And we all share that cultural challenge, complexity and inertia holding us back from living a better life. And Artie, that was a different take on the problem. Artie showed us what it means to build a business in that space. That's a different problem, a different challenge, and yet one that we're all patients, but we also all need to get paid. And so the question of what it is to actually build a business helping patients is just as relevant to how do you help patients. And what Artie really showed us was how much passion that takes. And I want to recognise Artie for that. And then I have to admit I'm having a mental blank. Our Duchenne friend, I can't think of your name, sorry. I'm sorry. That showed us the importance of collecting data to patients, even though there's no direct benefit to the patient from the data. It's again about thinking structurally. If I can collect data about me and make it available for research, other patients will have a better chance than I do. And that's a different kind of thinking infrastructurally. Thank you. And then today we heard from Kate and Christina, and that was a powerful story, and I really wasn't sure how I was going to follow up on that. Data drives diagnosis. I used to work in a diagnostic process. Data drives diagnosis. Whose data drives whose diagnosis? There's this fundamental problem in the way the system works, and then a plan comes from data as well. But I want to ask you, who's responsible for the overall outcome of the patient? Who is actually responsible? When you're a healthy, relatively healthy patient, you can be responsible for your own outcome. You're not well informed, but you can be responsible. But certain health conditions, and Christina showed this well, that's not practical anymore. Who's responsible for your health care? And the answer almost always comes to someone in your family who's providing you real care, and yet they have no role in the system. They don't exist as a care provider in the formal system. How did we pull off the fact that the major care provider doesn't even exist in the system? And that's a passion of mine. We talk a lot about patient engagement, but the primary caregiver, they're even more important for me. But again, it's about being self-aware of the structural challenges and taking on the structural challenges. I honour your perception and your direction that you've taken with that. Thank you very much. But then that's a question for all of us. We are mostly developers of some kind or other, or engineers, or software developers, or business analysts, a few policy people here. We are paid to think structurally, but do we think structurally about the entire picture? Do you think structurally about the entire picture? So that, for me, that's a takeaway from this, is the importance of thinking structurally, and I challenge you to do that, not just in your job, but in what is around you. So I thank Rian for running the Patient Innovator Track. Thank Mikhail for leading the track. Thank Dave and Ron Rosenthal, who were the other judges with me. Rian, I don't volunteer to be a judge next year. Not that that'll get me out of it, I'm sure. Okay. Moving on more generally to the meeting, I've got a complaint to make about this meeting. There's too many interesting sessions on all at once. Have any of you others noticed that? Yeah. There was one particular session I was like highlighted all 5 of the 7 as a must get to. I don't know, Rian, I don't know what we can do about that. Maybe we can just run DevDays permanently. How do you feel about that? No, that's what Julep is, a permanent DevDays. Hopefully you are all have logged into chat.fire.org and know that next time you are looking at something you think, that can't be right. Maybe I don't understand. Hang on, how do I do this? Don't make up an answer out of your head. Ask us and join in the discussion at chat.fire.org. All right, so we're coming towards the end of DevDays. And as I said, we can carry it on virtually, but thank you all for coming. There's a few particular thanks I want to give. So if the FHIR team can come out the front, please. They had to do so much work to organise this, so out you come. Thank you very much. We got a photo of them. But there's somebody missing. Well, there's a few people missing. Out come the blues and Marita. They seem a bit reluctant. Where are they all? They're working. Oh, all right. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Marita. So, by the way, a number of you have contributed to this little box, the box of trees. If you have any leftover spare change to help mitigate the effect of travelling here on carbon dioxide, please contribute to this little box. 330 trees are in the box, but we could go for more. I think it was 330 or so. So please consider parting with your parting euros as you leave the Netherlands. I mean, some of you are staying in the Eurozone, but you could still consider a donation to the trees. And then you get to look forward to, in a few weeks, or it's usually sometime before Christmas, a photo of the FHIR team planting all the trees. I hope we'll see another photo like that. Okay. So what we do here is collect, curate and share knowledge of a way to engineer the healthcare system to lead to better outcomes. Every one of us will be a patient, a sick or more, as Christina was, because every one of us eventually will pass on. Every one of us will encounter the healthcare system in a very deep and meaningful fashion. We are all patients. Are you ready to encounter the system as it is now? Our business here is re-engineering the healthcare system. I have the honour of representing this community around the world. Meetings, governments, student movements, NGOs. And it's an amazing privilege for me to have that honour. I hope that I'm just doing it well on behalf of the community. I keep hammering away at all these people. It's the community that are committed to FHIR that make all the difference. It's not just saying that. I'm nothing without the community to drive that. But the point of the community is not to tick some box. The point of the community is to gather, care for, and share knowledge about how to make healthcare better. And that, I call that, when I speak, I call that public treasure. It's something that we all own, and we're all richer because all of us own it. If only one of us owned it, then none of us could make the same use of it. And so actually people, big corporations, individuals, countries, send some of their best people here, you guys, thank you for coming, to share what they have so they can build something even better because we all have it. So our business is public treasure. And it's really important that we continue to curate that public treasure faithfully, for that's the way that we honour your contribution of coming here. Thank you for coming. I invite you to keep participating, keep coming, participate through the social media forums, spread the word in your own country. Feel free to create. One thing that's starting to happen around the world now is like local FHIR user group meetings. There's happening around the world. Some of you in the audience are already running those. In as much as we can do anything to support those, we do. I seem to have been to quite a few by coincidence. But feel free to start creating. It's kind of time. it seems as if almost every city where you decide to hold one, there'll be 20 or 30 people who are actually doing FHIR in the local area. Some cities, some valleys can attract hundreds of people to those kind of meetings, but even, the city of 1 million people will be able to do that. So, think about seeding the community even further and growing it locally. I encourage you to do that, and we'll support whichever way we can. So, thank you for coming. I'll see you all next year.
Okay. Before we go to farewell drinks, which is in the back, I would like to have one more person on stage. James, are you still here? Yeah. So, as you all know by now, Ewout's not here, and James, you were the stand-in for almost the entire event. And you did a great job when you entered on a drum kit. Can I have your hands and feet, please, for James? So, thank you, James. You did a real great job. We have a small present here. These are socks. I know you're not an ice skating fan, but they're ice skating socks. Yeah, and I also know that you bike to work. Sure. Do you still do that? Absolutely. Oh, so this is an Amsterdam bike bell. Put it on your Toronto bell and use it.
I love it. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Sorry for missing this morning.
No. Okay, let's go for drinks. Woo!